granted such possibility of having those roles. That's where paradigm of closing government will take place in today's debate. We'll further argue to you that this means Hollywood is not correcting itself in terms of providing opportunities, ladies and gentlemen, to the people inside the industry, but further we're going to analyze in regards to how it does have social impacts, which is way more tangible in contrast to the top half. Because what you've seen in the top half is mainly rhetorics, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot guarantee, right, that a certain message will be conveyed in a manner that each side wants to propose. But what closing government will do to you is to provide these tangible benefits in terms of opportunity, which should have been equally more distributed by Hollywood to begin with. But beforehand, right, one comment to be addressed to the opening opposition. Look, we think it's bad when they try to tone down the whole notion of white savior narrative, because however they try to soften the image that these people interact and so on and so forth, the underlying notion is still that there's a power imbalance existing between these two entities, ladies and gentlemen. That there will always be this white savior who is going to save the people of color at the end of the day. We don't think that that's indeed a good narrative, ladies and gentlemen, and we don't like to have that. Because look, there's a lot of examples in which both actors of POCs and even white people can equally interact. I point you to the example of Man in Black, for example, Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, right? We can see how Hollywood does have the capacity to make sure that these two entities are equally cooperating with one another, aside from having these power structure inside the movie. So at the end of the day, no matter how positive the relationship is, we still think that the existing condition of such structure is still harmful, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about then the contributions explicitly coming from closing government. We say it's limiting the opportunity of people, of persons of color in Hollywood. But first you must understand that Hollywood should have become an industry that's inclusive and non-discriminatory. Why? Because as an industry, it's not just we're demanded by the progressiveness of society to exactly adopt all of those progressive values, aspiring to merit-based system, ladies and gentlemen, but we also need to acknowledge that as an industry, we have the capacity to, break prejudice and bring about social impacts to how the society is under its having their discourse, in particular regarding racism. Furthermore, we contend that as industry that profits and have these money, ladies and gentlemen, and while providing discussion to society, we think that the reformation that they are doing should not be limited to outside reformations, ladies and gentlemen. We've seen how outside of Hollywood, right, these social movements are actually lingering everywhere. But we think that the problem inside Hollywood in itself is still harmful, and it brings about a certain kind of dissonance inside the society regarding whether or not Hollywood is true to its words of becoming a beacon of social change in society or not, ladies and gentlemen. So at the end of the day, we contend that the existing white savior narrative is not empowering the people that Hollywood should be Hollywood should be benefiting for, ladies and gentlemen. Because mind you, that it is the stories of these people of color that makes Hollywood profit, ladies and gentlemen. And we contend that it's harmful that these profits do not go exactly to the people that Hollywood should be benefiting. And this is exactly where the role of people of color who are actors or who are entertainers needs to be acknowledged by Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. And we argue that these economic benefits are exactly what these people need, right? Not just concepts, we're also talking about Will Smith, and other black artists were disenfranchised by even the most recent case of Oscar that is so white, ladies and gentlemen. Because if this happens, if white savior continues to become a rising trend, what happens is that all these economic benefits, economic compensation will only go to those who play the role, and most likely it's the white people, ladies and gentlemen, and never the people of color who could have had such spotlight being cast upon them, ladies and gentlemen. We argue that the opportunity cost, which is not provided to people of color, to exactly become the savior, is that harmful a cost for us to bear. Because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, this kind of
how massive is this kind of white savior, right? Because we also have Color as a Slave, in which the black is the primary actor, and Lupita Nyong'o, for example, from the movie, also gave popularity to the
But that's only one film, ladies and gentlemen. The context of this debate talks about the rising trend, in which it means that most likely in the future, seeing the successes of the white savior narrative evident in Blindside, evident in many types of movies, most of these Hollywood movie maker will only choose white people, ladies and gentlemen. And that's where we argue the harm will significantly become perpetuated if you follow this case from opposition side cuts. Secondly, briefly and more important, we argue that this is an oversimplification of the problem, ladies and gentlemen, because in these movies, if you come to think of it, there's a sense that the issue is done just like that because of the existence of white savior narrative, and that one problem is going to be solved. In The Help, when the article is published, the problem is solved. In Blindside, when the blind person becomes the football star, the problem is done. Meanwhile, we argue that we're not debating in a vacuum. We argue that there are more challenges that these minorities are facing, ladies and gentlemen, not just the thing that's portrayed inside these movies. Just because the guy becomes a football star does not necessarily mean police brutality stopped happening. Does not necessarily mean significant discrimination will happen in workplaces for people of color, ladies and gentlemen. So we think that at the end of the day, it oversimplifies the problem, ladies and gentlemen, and furthermore and worse off, it makes the white community become the spirit of the movement because most likely they're the ones who are going to be interviewed and with higher airtime, ladies and gentlemen, because they're the main star and people want to talk to that person regarding the experience which do not belong to them but instead belong to the people